Hey guys, it's Generalkidd here. How's everyone doing today? So, for today's video, I'm going to show you guys all the secret vehicles in Halo 1 that you normally can't drive. So, some of these vehicles are, you may have seen them in-game actually, hidden in plain sight, that you may not even have known were vehicles. And some of them are only seen in cutscenes, and some of them might not have ever been used at all. But, I managed to spawn them all in on this one map, and we're going to be taking a look at all of them and seeing what it's like to drive them and just what they look like in general. So, the first one we'll be taking a look at is from the mission Pillar Bottom, the first mission of Halo 1, and it's used on a Pillar Bottom ship in the bridge where Captain Keyes is. It is called a chair pilot, and it's where, well, it's at the very front of the room where Captain Keyes is in, and it's just, the pilots are just sitting on the chairs, and that's it. You see it used in cutscenes, you see them sitting on it. The next one is the chair pod, which is where all the other crew members are sitting with the giant screens in front of them. And then next on the Pillar Bottom, we also have the cryo tubes. Now this one you actually do spawn in at the beginning of Pillar Bottom, and it is actually a fully functional vehicle. In fact, you can also have it, let you get back in if you modify a few settings. But what's interesting there, if you saw, in first person, it looks like my assault rifle was lowered, almost like when it is when you're sprinting in the newer Halo games. But I'm not exactly sure why it did that. Next up, we have the life pods, or also, the escape pods, or whatever you want to call them. But in the game files, they are called life pods, and they're all vehicles. So the first one is just the standard life pod, and you can't really fly it around. The next one is the life pod docked. This one can't even move at all, whereas the other one you can kind of like flip it a little bit. But this one is actually really cool, and this one is called a re-entry life pod, and it actually can be flown around really fast too. Now I know this video is being sped up for the sake of time, but even without the video being sped up, this life pod can fly very fast, and it also lets you no-clip through pretty much anything, including the environment, the entire map. You can just fly right through it. But aside from that, the actual, effects of the life pod do look really cool like this, with the whole fire. It's almost like you're flying a rocket, like, literally. But yeah, so that is the re-entry life pod. Next one, we have the atmospheric re-entry life pod, which is just only used for the cutscene at the beginning of the mission Halo. Oh, no, it's used in the cutscene at the end of Pillar of Autumn, where the life pod starts entering the atmosphere, and that's it. The only difference with life pod is that it can't be flown, and it just has the re-entry effects around it. It's all part of the life pod. Next up, we have the Pelican. You do see this in multiple missions, obviously, and you even get to ride in back of it sometimes, but you never get to fly it, so I just want to throw it in there to show that the Pelican in Halo 1 is also flyable, just like it is in the newer Halo games. But this is just a standard Pelican. There's actually Pelican variants in the game that are all vehicles as well. In fact, just like the atmospheric re-entry life pod, we also have a crashing Pelican, which is used at the end of the mission, the Mall, where Foehammer is basically shot down and her Pelican's about to crash. And this is the Pelican that she's using while it's crashing. The only difference with it from a standard Pelican is that this Pelican just has the fire effects on the engines and the smoke and everything. And it's also pretty cool to fly. And the last Pelican variant we have is called an Astral Pelican. And I'm not really sure why it's called that, or like what it's supposed to be. But the Astral Pelican is just a regular Pelican, but it's not solid. And that's it. Also, flying some of these vehicles, when you get out, it kind of crashes the game. So I'd have to cut those parts out. But next up, we have some interesting Banshees. The first Banshee we have here is called the Banshee_old playback. It is a much faster Banshee and highly maneuverable Banshee, but it's also a no-clip Banshee. It lets you just fly through the map through solid objects. Now, this Banshee, technically you actually do get to fly it at one point in the game. At the end of the mission Keyes, when you're about to escape, if you remember, you escape in a Banshee, and you just fly that straight out the hangar, and the mission ends. Well, this is that Banshee, actually. So you do get to fly this Banshee for a few seconds before the mission ends. But you never really get to use the full extent of the Banshee, like its maneuverability, its speed, and everything. Also, interesting enough, so even though these are separate vehicles, they do still support the Halo 1 skins on MCC. But anyways, so as you can see, this Banshee is no clip. It's faster, it's more maneuverable, and you also can't get splattered by it. But it is used in game. Next we have the cinematic Banshee, and as it implies, it's only used in cutscenes. Probably the one on the mall, and maybe other cutscenes where you might see Banshees. I don't remember any off the top of my head. But this Banshee, unlike the others, you can't shoot. There's no plasma cannons on it, there's no Banshee bombs, but it does still support vehicle skins. And everything about it is the same as regular Banshees, it's just you can't shoot. That's it. This next one is called B30_Falling Box. It looks like a regular Covenant crate, and it pretty much is. Except this is a special version of it that is a vehicle. And based on like its tag, a lot of its settings and stuff, its properties, I think it was used as some kind of like testing object for warthogs. But I'm not exactly sure, but that seems like it might have been. But it's just a box that you get into, you can't drive it. Next up we have the Wraith. This one you see a lot of in-game, but you actually never get to drive it. That's because normally the Wraith is only for elites to drive. But with a little bit of modding, you can make it drivable to Spartans as well. Or you can just make yourself an elite and then drive it either way. But this is what it's like to drive the Wraith, and you can fire the mortars, and it even has like the rocket launcher reticle for the Wraith mortar. Now we're going to breeze through these next two, but the Spirit dropship is indeed a vehicle. It's not just some scenery object, but it is an actual vehicle. Unfortunately, I could not make it drivable for some reason. Something weird about it, just it won't work for me. And same with a longsword, also a vehicle here, not actually solid, and for some reason I also could not make it drivable due to some limitations, I believe, but it is an actual vehicle in the game as well. But unfortunately, like I said, I just couldn't make it drivable. But yeah, so the longsword and the spear dropship are the only two ships, or the only two vehicles I couldn't make drivable for this video. But I do want to put out there that they are actually vehicles. Anyways, next vehicle looks like a regular Scorpion tank, but it's actually called Scorpion_Cinematic. So it's a cinematic Scorpion tank. It is not solid at all, as you saw there. And when you get into it, it actually has a health bar. And by default, it only has 1 bar of health left. Everything else about it is the same though. You can fire the cannon, you can fire the machine gun turret. And despite having only 1 bar of health, it's still indestructible. And it's actually not solid. You could see the Wraith mortars just go right through me sometimes. Only the splash damage of it can actually, like, you know, move me around, but it doesn't do any damage to me at all, or to the Scorpion tank. Now the last secret vehicle in the game is actually the Halo ring itself. This is only, I believe it's only used on the mission Pillar of Autumn, the first mission. When you're visiting Captain Keyes, you can see outside there's a Halo ring in the distance. That actually is not a scenery object, that is actually a vehicle. And with a little bit of modding, you can actually make it drivable because it is a vehicle. So, unfortunately, driving the Halo ring doesn't actually do anything, you can't move it. But still, it's, just because we can, we're going to be driving the Halo ring, or we are driving the Halo ring now, or flying the Halo ring, or however you want to word it. But yeah, so those are basically all the vehicles in Halo 1 or Halo Combat Evolved that you normally can't drive. And some of them you don't even see in normal gameplay either. Some of them are just in cinematics. Some of them, you know, might not even be used in game at all. Like that B30 falling box. I'm not sure if it's actually used anywhere in the game at all. But that is just one example there. And some of them you think are scenery objects, but actually are vehicles. So, you know, they are vehicles hiding in plain sight. But yeah, hopefully you guys found this video to be interesting. And as always, if you did enjoy it, make sure to leave a like. I'll leave your thoughts in the comments. If there's anything else you want me to check out or look into, any questions you have, or anything else you want me to look, you know, to investigate, just let me know in the comments down below, and I'll definitely do my best to check it out when I get the chance. But aside from that, make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and make sure to click the little bell icon to get notified of our latest videos. And aside from that, I will see you all next time. Bye, guys.